On our last video, we explored some of the strangest death rituals the world has ever seen. Today, we continued the trend of the super weird, but this time with people who are very much alive.
It's alive!
It's time to roll out the red carpet for our latest video as we take a look at some of Hollywood's weirdest, grossest, and downright unbelievable stories. Disclaimer, we're going to be covering some very adult content, so yeah. Movies have come a long way since their inception in late 1888. I mean, unless watching a running horse or random garden footage is your thing, we aren't here to judge. And honestly, it's still better than... You know what? Let's not even go there. We're now at a point where anything you can imagine is possible to reproduce on the silver screen. For better and for worse.
I love you, darling.
With all this amazing cinematography at our fingertips, it can be easy to forget what goes on behind the scenes. And let me tell you, it can get weird. Really weird. From sexual encounters to divine intervention, here are some of the craziest stories from Hollywood. Have you ever watched a sex scene in a movie and thought, that looks real? How the heck did they film this without getting all up in each other's business? Well, there are lots of neat little tricks to heighten the realism, and doing so in a comfortable and respectful way. Mainly tape in places you probably never want tape. But sometimes actors are a little more method and decide to go for maximum realism by, well, connecting with their scene partner. Some big Hollywood players have done the deed or other sexual acts for their scenes, like Donald Sutherland, Aubrey Plaza, 50 Cent, Robert Pattinson, and Hayden Christensen.
It's coarse and rough and irritating, and it gets everywhere.
But there is one Hollywood story that is bigger than them all. No, seriously, it goes to incredible lengths to out-weird them all. So without further ado, let's get to the meat of the story. Yeah, those jokes will be funnier in a minute, I promise. Horror fans out there might be familiar with an incredible graphic tale of sexual desire and mental collapse known as Antichrist. The film was from 2009 and stars Charlotte Gainsbourg and Willem Dafoe. Set in an isolated cabin in the woods, this psychological horror flick will shock even the most veteran moviegoers out there. There are several cases of nudity in the film, including a few shots of Dafoe's kibbles and bits. The filming of these scenes was done with a body double, so it's not Dafoe himself. But that wasn't always the case. Initially, Dafoe was comfortable with exposing himself for the shot. However, director Lars von Trier went on record saying they couldn't.
Yeah, we had to kind of take the scenes out of the film. We had a stand-in for him. We had to take the scenes out with his own dick.
Hold on. You had a stand-in dick? You had to have a stand-in dick for Dafoe?
Yeah, we had to have, because Will's own was too big.
Too big to fit in the screen?
No, too big because everybody just got very confused when they saw it.
Well, there's something you probably didn't want to know.
Great.
And I'm sure you'll all think about it if you ever watch this again.
I'm gonna finish her nice and slow.
Yikes. Well, keep watching because it only gets crazier from here. Now that you've all been properly scarred for life, let's journey back to one of the greatest box office hits, well, ever. No! Do not open that wound again. James Cameron's film Titanic is touted as being one of the greatest films of all time, and was the highest grossing film of all time until these blue f***s showed up. Avengers Endgame also later pushed it to the number 3 slot.
The universe required correction.
But even still, this movie was a huge success, grossing over $2.18 billion worldwide. Despite the final product being a masterpiece of cinema, behind the scenes was a bit of a different story. Apparently James Cameron, to nobody's surprise, is a bit of a Dafoe. Yeah, I'm making this a thing now, so yeah, sorry about it. By all accounts, James was downright tyrannical, and the 160-day filming process was grueling. Kate Winslet even feared for her own life, feeling that she was at risk of actually drowning on several occasions. Well, what most people don't know is that at one point, a crew member got so fed up, he actually spiked the daily lunch soup. Yep, the night before the final day of shooting, cast, crew, and even James Cameron himself indulged in some truly delicious clam chowder. What they didn't know was, as they were scarfing down seconds and thirds, the pot was full of PCP. Within minutes, over 30 people began feeling disoriented. By the time they realized what happened, everyone was super high. They were all immediately taken by bus to the nearest hospital, but no one was in any serious danger. They mostly just stole wheelchairs, played hacky sack, and harassed the hospital staff. The perpetrator was never caught. Alright, we've all had a good chuckle at a cast higher than Mount Everest and Defoe's giant cock. It's time to get a bit darker. Let's talk about a movie called The Crow. If you're unfamiliar with the unusual circumstances behind this film, you're in for a shock. The film was released in 1994 and is based on a man who was brutally murdered but comes back to life to kill the person responsible for killing his fiancée. So yeah, a bit darker than your typical Cinderella story. Despite the film being a blood-soaked revenge quest, the tragedy behind the film is even darker. Lead actor Brandon Lee was filming one of the final scenes required to wrap the film. During the scene, co-star Michael Massey's character enters the scene, draws a .44 Magnum, and fires. As is the case with movie props in general, there were no real bullets in the gun. Or so they thought. To drive home the realism of the weapon, production used two different types of ammo: blanks, which have no projectile, and real bullet casings with no gunpowder. The problem arose when the props team decided to cut cost by not purchasing bullet casings, and instead making their own by emptying the gunpowder out of real bullets. Problem was, they forgot to remove the primer. This mistake in itself would not have caused a major issue. When the gun fired, there was only enough force to separate the bullet from the casing and lodge it in the gun barrel. However, no one from props realized this occurred. Meaning, when the ammo was swapped for the blanks, they had no idea there was an actual bullet sitting in the barrel. When the actor pulled the trigger for the scene, the force of the blank pushed the bullet out at a speed comparable to a live round. The bullet hit Brandon Lee directly in the abdomen, leaving a silver dollar-sized hole. He was immediately rushed to hospital and spent 6 hours in surgery. Unfortunately, he did not recover. A darkly ironic twist to the filming of this particular movie. The team still moved forward and completed the film using a combo of body doubles, CGI, and rewrites. Brandon's death, though tragic, was deemed an accident, and the movie went on to gross over $50 million. Honestly, I can't believe... Hey, what's happening? Why is everything black and white? Why is there a door in my living room? Am I supposed to open this? It's locked.
You unlock this door with the key of imagination.
The fuck is that supposed to mean?
Beyond it is another dimension. A dimension of sound, a dimension of sight, a dimension of mind.
I swear to God, if this door takes me to the Fire Festival again?
You're moving into a land of both shadow and substance, of things and ideas.
It's gonna be the fucking Fire Festival, isn't it?
You've crossed over into Fire Festival!
Damn it!
And also the Twilight Zone.
The Twilight Zone is not just the final resting place for Ja Rule's career. In fact, it was an extremely popular television program from 1959 to 1964. It explored weird, crazy, and unexplainable events, not unlike this channel. Insert shameless self-promotion. This entire channel and all content is created by one dude, me. So don't be a Defoe and subscribe so I can keep making these wacky videos. So anyway, The Twilight Zone. This series was hugely popular. There's even a ride at Disneyland based on it. Speaking of Disney, definitely check out these super awesome videos too. Okay, I'm done, I swear. This popularity led to the creation of a Twilight Zone movie in 1983, helmed by none other than Steven Spielberg and John Landis. The film would remake 4 of the most popular stories from the television show: Equality of Mercy, Kick the Can, It's a Good Life, and Nightmare at 20,000 Feet, the irony of which will be clear in a moment. Now obviously the draw of these stories is just how unbelievable they are, but all the alien probing or haunted elevators in the world can't compare to the horror behind the scenes. While filming segment 1, the production took some liberties with the shoot, and by liberties, I mean they broke a whole bunch of laws. For starters, they were filming with 2 child actors, Micah Din Lee, age 7, and Renee Shin Yi Chen, age 6, at 2:30 a.m., which is against the child labor laws in California. Also, they were using pyrotechnics, which again is a big no-no where children are concerned. The scene was meant to be a heroic escape from a Vietnamese village under pursuit of a helicopter. However, the rapid explosion in quick succession disoriented the helicopter pilot. In addition, debris from one of the blasts struck one of the chopper's rotors, causing it to spin out of control. The helicopter crashed right on top of the 3 actors in the scene. Vic Morrow and his 7-year-old co-star Micah Din Lee were decapitated by the spinning blades of the chopper. 6-year-old Chen was crushed beneath the struts. All 3 were killed instantly. To add to the tragedy behind the shoot, despite the blatant negligent behavior from the production team, John Landis denied responsibility. In fact, he was so unaffected by the incident, he even kept the footage in the film. A decade-long civil and criminal suit followed, but the parties involved were acquitted on all charges. Let's end this video on a more heavenly note. Mel Gibson, as you may know, is a very conservative, respectful,
But I don't give a
and pious man.
You look like a on heat.
His deep connection with religion
I get paid a ridiculous amount of money.
led him to direct the 2004 crucifixion blockbuster, The Passion of the Christ. The film evoked a lot of deep emotions, primarily confusion over why Jesus and his Middle Eastern homies were all super white. But I digress. The film had a lot to offer those seeking religious affirmations, and also for those seeking some Judas, the greatest thirst trap of the 20th century. Now, religious or not, there were some very strange and captivating events that took place on the set of The Passion of the Christ.
Rock me, sexy Jesus.
Okay, that's not one of them, but it's still catchy as hell. The Passion of the Christ is, at the time of writing, the 7th highest grossing R-rated film, and some of the scenes are truly shocking. Damn it. Again, that will be funnier in a minute. While filming the Sermon on the Mount scene, super white actor Jim White Jesus Caviezel was delivering his sermon on the benefits of life insurance. When out of nowhere, he was struck by lightning. Immediately, set assistant John Michelini rushed over to ask Jim if he was okay, at which time he was struck by lightning. As if that wasn't crazy enough, this was actually the 2nd time John had been struck by lightning during the filming. I don't know about you, but it sounds to me like maybe this isn't God's favorite movie.
Straight to hell, to the boiler room of hell, all the way down.
Luckily, everyone survived, and they had one hell of a story to tell. Despite not ending up as biblical barbecue, Jim did experience some severe trauma during the shoot. During the film's iconic whipping scene, a post was set up behind the actor as a barrier for the strikes. Unfortunately, some of his co-stars had terrible aim and actually whipped Caviezel himself. In addition, he also experienced a dislocated shoulder from carrying the cross, a lung infection, pneumonia, and severe migraines due to the prosthetics he was forced to wear over his eye. But despite all of this, the film was still a great breakout role for Kristen Stewart, and completely destroyed Jim Caviezel's career. So, all in all, a happy ending. Speaking of happy endings, now you're thinking about it again. Well, that's it for today's video.
I gotta get going.
If you thought Hollywood was crazy, you won't believe the true stories they're based on. In our next video, we'll be exploring the true story behind exorcist extraordinaires Ed and Lorraine Warren, and the horror films they inspired. If creepy dolls and demons are your thing, stick around. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe to stay up to date with all the latest
Odds and ends.
from across the globe.